All right, so our first set of notes in this new chapter are just what a rational expression is and then simplifying and multiplying them. So a rational expression is a fraction. Let's see if I can write that better. Is a fraction or ratio, you can write either word, of two polynomial expressions. So to simplify a rational expression, you need to factor everything that can be factored, simplify the monomials using the exponent rules, and then eliminate any common binomials or two-term factors. Okay, so back to using factoring. Like I said, it never goes away. So our first one, we have 20x to the 6th over 14x squared. So we're going to start with just simplifying 20 over 14. They both have a common factor of 2. So we're going to divide them both by 2. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. 14 divided by 2 is 7. Then x to the 6th over x squared. So since it's division, we subtract the exponent. So 6 minus 2 is 4. So this is x to the 4th power. And that is our final answer for this one. So for number 2, we have 6k minus 36 over k minus 6. So we're going to factor out a common factor out of this numerator. So 6 and 36 have a common factor of 6. So 6 goes here, and then on the outside of that set of parentheses is where the 6 goes. And then 6k divided by 6 is k. And then 36 divided by 6 is 6. And then we still have the k minus 6 in the denominator. So because there's a k minus 6 and a k minus 6 in the numerator and the denominator, those cancel out, and we're left with just 6 as our answer. So moving on to number 3. So we have y plus 8, and then y squared plus 2y minus 48. All right, so we have to factor this denominator. So we need the factors of 48. So we have 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12, and 6 and 8. And the pair of those that get us positive 2, 6 and 8. And because a is 1, this is just where we leave it. We don't have to do divide by a or anything. So leave the y plus 8 in the numerator. And then we just have y plus 8 and y minus 6 factoring that denominator. Okay. So if you look, we have y plus 8 in the numerator and y plus 8 in the denominator. So those cancel. But because y minus 6 is still left in the denominator, we need something in the numerator. So we have 1 over y minus 6 as our answer. And there we go. Number 4. Now, we can do this 2 different ways. I'm going to suggest we take out a common factor of 2 out of both the numerator and the denominator, and just make it r squared minus r minus 20 over 4r plus 16. And then we're going to simplify that further by factoring. So the factors of 20, so 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. So in order to get negative 1, we have to use 4 and 5. So we have r minus 5, r plus 4. And then in the denominator, there is a common factor of 4 we can still take out of that. So we have 4, and then 4r divided by 4 is just r. And 16 divided by 4 is 4. And now we have r plus 4 in both the numerator and the denominator, so those cancel. And we're left with just r minus 5 over 4. All right, and that's our final answer for that one. Right. To number 5. So we have p squared minus 49 over 7 minus p. So p squared minus 49 is something we can factor because it's the difference of two squares. And to factor that, this is where we write our two sets of parentheses. And then the square root of p squared is p. And then the square root of 49 is 7. And then 1 positive, 1 negative. And then we have 7 minus p still in the denominator. And right now, nothing matches. Yes, we have a minus and a minus, but it's p minus 7 instead of 7 minus p. There is a way that we can deal with this and flip it around so that it's in this same order. And to do that, we're actually going to factor out a negative 7 or a negative 1 out of the denominator. So we're going to write negative 1, and then it flips these around and changes their signs when you divide by negative 1. So this becomes p minus 7, because 7 divided by negative 1 is negative 7, and negative p divided by negative 1 is positive p. So now we have everything in the same order, and we now have the same binomial. So the p minus 7's cancel, and we're left with p plus 7 over negative 1. And if we want, we could rewrite this because negative 1 is just going to make it harder and more difficult in the denominator. So if you have a negative 1 left in the denominator, you can essentially make it this, because multiplying by negative 1 and dividing by negative 1 are going to be the same operation and give you the same answer in this case. So we're going to write it in the simpler form of negative 1 times p plus 7. All right, so for number 6, we have 12a cubed minus 3a divided by 12a cubed plus 6a squared. Now these ones, we are just going to start with factoring out a common factor. So in the numerator, they have a 3 and an a in both of them. So we're going to start with that. So 12a cubed divided by 3a is 4a squared, then minus, and then 3a divided by 3a is 1. And then 12a cubed plus 6a squared, their common factor is 6a squared. So 12a cubed divided by 6a squared is 2a. And then 6a squared divided by 6a squared is 1, so we have plus 1. And now, we'll deal with these in a minute. We're going to talk about this 4a squared minus 1 first. This can be factored and needs to be factored. So this is the difference of two squares. So we're going to write our two sets of parentheses. And now I need the square root of 4a squared. So the square root of that whole thing is 2a. So 2 and a go in the first spot. The square root of 1 is 1. And then 1 positive, 1 negative. And then we still have 6a squared times 2a plus 1 on the denominator. All right, and now we are going to simplify what we can. So we obviously have the 2a plus 1 that are both in the numerator and the denominator. So those are going to cancel. So you can cross those out. And then we can simplify this 3a over 6a squared. So if you want, you can actually put a little exponent of 1 up here so you have an exponent to subtract from. So let's just start with simplifying 3 over 6. So 3 over 6 simplifies to 1/2. And then we're going to do the a to the first over a squared. So you subtract their exponents. So 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So we have a to the negative first power. And then we still have 2a minus 1 over here. So right now that is our answer, but remember, we can't have a negative exponent in our answer. So the negative exponent flips things in their position in the fraction. So since this negative one is in the numerator, it's going to flip down to the denominator. So our final answer is 1 times 2a minus 1 over 2a. And really, we don't have to write this one coefficient here, but if you want to leave it there, you can. And that is our final answer. All right, so that's just if we are simplifying a single fraction. Our next set of operation is multiplying rational expressions. So if the problem contains monomials only, so if it's one term over one term, then you just multiply together and then simplify. But if there are binomials and trinomials being multiplied, you have to factor everything first and then simplify. So let's go to our first example. So we have 6x squared y cubed over 2x squared y squared times 10x cubed y to the fourth over 18y squared. All right, we'll deal with the variables and everything in a minute, but let's talk about simplifying some of these numbers first. So 6 over 2, we can simplify that to 3 over 1. So get rid of that for a minute. And then 10 over 18 simplifies to 5/9. So let's simplify that to 5/9. And we have much easier numbers to multiply. So the coefficients, you're just going to multiply. So 3 times 5 is 15. And then because we're multiplying the variables together, we're going to add the exponents. So x squared and x cubed is x to the fifth. Y cubed and y to the fourth is y to the seventh. And then 1 times 9 is 9. Sorry, just got a text message. So in the new denominator, we have x squared, and then there are no x's over here, so it's going to stay x squared. And then we have y squared times y squared, so you're going to add the exponents, and we get y to the fourth. And we still have a way, we can still simplify 15 over 9 further, so we're going to do that. So 15 and 9 have a common factor of 3, so you're going to divide those both by 3 and make this 5 over 3. And now we're going to subtract the exponents here. So 5 minus 2 is 3. So this is x cubed. And then 7 minus 4 is also 3. So this is y cubed. And we don't have any negative exponents, so we are good to go. And that is our final answer. Okay, so number 8, we have 4a squared b squared over 15a b cubed times 5a cubed b to the 6th power over 12 a to the 4th b to the 7th. All right, so we are going to simplify here again, but we're going to cross simplify. So we're going to simplify the 4 and the 12 together. So 4 over 12 simplifies to 1/3. So the 4 and the 12 are becoming 1 and 3. And then 5 and 15 also simplify to 1 and 3. So now we have much, much smaller answers to deal with. So 1 times 1 is 1. A squared times a cubed is a to the 5th power. B to the 6th times b to the 6th, you add them and you get b to the 12th. And then 3 times 3 is 9. So this a, remember, has an exponent of 1. So we have a to the 1st times a to the 4th. So we have a to the 5th. And then b cubed and b to the 7th is b to the 10th power. All right, so now here, this one simplifies quite nice because a to the 5th over a to the 5th, remember, anytime you have the same thing in the numerator and the denominator, boop, they cancel. So the 1 over 9 stays. And then b to the 12th over b to the 10th, so you subtract. So 12 minus 10 is 2. So we have b squared. And now we're as simplified as we can get, and that is our final answer. All right, so for our last two examples, we're going to do some factoring. So we have 4x squared minus 4x over 2x squared plus 4x minus 6 times x squared plus x minus 6 over 4x squared plus 8. We're just going to factor everything that we can and then simplify from there. So in this first fraction, everything has a factor of 2 in it. So we're just going to get rid of that factor of 2 right away so that we have 2x squared minus 2x over x squared plus 2x minus 3. And then over here, we don't have a common factor throughout because there aren't coefficients in front of the x squared and x up here. So let's just start with factoring this side first. So the factors of 6 are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. So the only pair that's going to get us 1 is the 2 and 3. So we have x plus 3 and x minus 2. And then this denominator, we're just going to take out a common factor. So 4x squared and 8x have a common factor of 4x. So 4x squared divided by 4x is just x. And then 8x divided by 4x is 2. So we have plus 2. And now we have that whole right fraction simplified. Now we're going to come over here and simplify the fraction that we just wrote over here. So we have 2x squared minus 2x. Okay, so they have a common factor of 2 and x. So 2x squared divided by 2x is x. 2x divided by 2x is 1, so we have minus 1. And then the factors of 3 are only 1 and 3. So the only way we can factor that is using 1 and 3. So to get positive 2, we have x plus 3 and x minus 1. And then we're still going to just bring the rest of this fraction down. Okay, so now we're going to cancel what we can cancel. So the x plus 1s, obviously, because they're both, there's a 1 in the numerator and the denominator here. I'm going to change colors so we can see this. So those cancel. And then if you look, there's an x plus 3 in this numerator and an x plus 3 in this denominator over here. So those are going to cancel. We do have x's and 2's over here, but 1 is minus and 1 is plus, so we can't cancel those. And now look at these 2x and this 4x. We have an x in the numerator and the denominator, so those are also going to cancel. And then we can simplify 2 over 4. So 2 over 4 simplifies to 1 over 2. And now what we're left with is 1 times x minus 2 over 2 times x plus 2. And that is our final answer. All right, moving on to the last one. So we have 10v minus 5v squared over v squared minus 11v plus 18 times 2v squared plus 6v over v squared plus v minus 6. Now, this one is in the wrong order because we have to have the v squared first. So as part of our common factor here, we're going to include the negative so that we can flip their order around. So their common factor is 5v, so we're going to make it negative 5v. And we're going to divide the v squared first. So negative 5v squared divided by negative 5v is positive v. And then 10v divided by negative 5v is minus 2. So now we have it in the correct order of the v first. And now we're going to factor this v squared minus 11v plus 18. So just to make it shorter, the factors of 18 to get 11 are 2 and 9. So we have v minus 2 and v minus 9, because that's the only way to get negative 11. Now, over here, in our numerator, their common factor is 2 and v. So 2v squared divided by 2v is v. 6v divided by 2v is 3, so we have plus 3. And then to factor this, the only factors of 6 that are going to get us positive 1 are 3 and 2. I should probably finish writing before I move on my sentence. So this factors into maybe whatever just happened there. This factors into v plus 3 and v minus 2. And now we can start canceling what they have in common. So right over here, we have v plus 3 and v plus 3, so those are going to cancel. And then over here, we have v minus 2 and v minus 2, so those are going to cancel. And I think that's everything that's going to cancel in this one. So we're going to multiply what we have left. So negative 5v times 2v is negative 10v squared. And then v minus 9 and v minus 2 are all that's left in the denominator. And that is our final answer.